Hello, my name is Brian. I'm a writer and I have over 25 books published on Amazon. Please like and subscribe to the video and the channel so I can get the word about it around to everyone else. Thank you. Chapter 23, Seduction. Mass the next Sunday was well attended, even more so than the previous week. As Philip prepared for the service, Mr. Beasley approached him in the sitting room. "Good morning, Father," he said. Philip smiled and rose from his chair. "I'm not ordained," he said. "You can call me brother." "If you say so," the organist said with a roll of his eyes. "Today I'd like to be prepared if you should go off script again. What will you be singing at the end of the Mass?" Um, I hadn't thought about it. How about What a Friend We Have in Jesus? Philip smiled. It's not very Catholic, is it? Maybe not, but it is uplifting. The young priest agreed with him and patted Mr. Beasley's shoulder. Then he went back to reading through today's liturgy. He read once through the sermon he intended to give, and then made his way to the foyer. The organ had already started to play, and he looked in the chapel to see the crowd. And it was a crowd. Almost every seat was taken. He made a sign to Mr. Beasley, and the processional hymn began. He marched to the pulpit, and then turned and faced the congregation. From there, Mass went well. After going through the first prayers, he was about to start his sermon for the week. The theme was supposed to be about helping out your neighbors. He glanced down at his notes and then raised his eyes to look at the congregation. His eyes fell on a woman sitting in the front pew. A girl, really. She was about 20 or so, the same as he, and very attractive. It seemed odd to him that he did not recognize her. He felt sure that he would remember if he ever saw a woman who looked like that. Even though he was studying to be a priest, he was still a man. A young man at that. She looked up at him, and her eyes lit up. She stared right into his eyes, and he stuttered slightly when he started his sermon. The girl shifted and slid forward slightly on the pew. She continued to stare, and he was having trouble concentrating. She crossed her legs and gave him a wicked smile. He could not help but watch as she slid even farther down the pew. Her skirt rode up her thighs, and Philip coughed uncomfortably. She parted her legs slightly, and he turned to look at the big stained glass window at his side. It was a scene of Golgotha with the Christ being crucified on the hill. He took a shallow breath and looked around the chapel. All of the people were staring at him expectantly. He realized that he had stopped talking. He swallowed hard and took another breath. He heard a girl's giggling and looked down to see that the woman in the front row was now sitting with her legs spread wide. She had opened her blouse to reveal her belly and the skin between her breasts. Philip gasped and stared towards the ceiling. The girl giggled again, and he could not help but turn back to look at her. The half-naked girl was staring at him intensely. He stared back while his mind told him to look away. She transformed in front of his eyes. Her figure grew and expanded. At the same time, she became black and red. Her innocent-looking face went narrow and became serpentine. Her eyes were slitted, and she smirked at him. Her teeth elongated and became fangs. The beast then stood to its full height of 12 feet or more. It let out a raucous laugh. Philip shivered and fell to his knees. He clasped his hands together as if to pray and stared upwards at the creature. "I'll see you later, priest," the beast said with a chuckle. "Father," Michael said urgently. "Father, are you all right?" "Wake up, lad," Mrs. Fitz said. "Wake up." Philip looked up at the two of them. He was lying on his back with his face towards the ceiling. "What happened?" he mumbled. "You fell clean to the floor, father," Michael said. "Aye, you fainted," his mother put in. "Are you feeling right?" Philip nodded in a daze and tried to sit up. A dozen hands reached for him and helped him to stand. "Put the lad in the sitting room," Miss Fitz said. "I'll make some tea." He was carried to the couch and set to lie down. A couple of the women from the congregation hovered over him. After a short time, Mrs. Fitz brought tea. Father Kyle came into the room and Philip stared at him. He wanted to leap to his feet and tell the man what he had just seen. Kyle knelt at his side and placed a gentle hand on his chest. "Lie still, lad," he said. "I saw... well, I don't know what I saw." Kyle gave him a knowing smile and nodded. "Sure you do," he said, "but you can tell me about it later." Mrs. Fitz scowled at the elderly priest, but gave him an appreciative nod just the same. "Leave the boy to his tea," she said. They all left the room then, and left Philip to rest. The congregation filed out the front door, all of them gossiping about the young father's fall to the floor. They all agreed that it was probably not because of drink. A young feller like that would be able to hold his liquor much better than that. Some of them speculated that he might be suffering from an incurable disease. After all, that sounded much more dramatic than stress or exhaustion. Father Kyle did not comment, though it was unlikely that anyone would have listened if he had. The people were still angry at him, though they had trouble remembering why. Philip heard them all shuffling out the door. He did not pay much attention to them. He was having enough trouble trying to banish the image of the woman in the front pew out of his mind. Now that he had time to think about it, he realized that she must have been a figment of his imagination. Her and the beast she transformed into. None of the congregation had seen her. Surely someone would have commented on the woman in the front pew if they had seen her. Not to mention the 12-foot giant she transformed into. "I was the only one who saw her," he mumbled. He blushed from head to toe then. She sat right in front of him to seduce him, and he fell for it. He should have been better able to control himself. He sighed and sat with his face buried in his hands. "If that thing can get into my head so easily, maybe I should leave this place," he said to himself. He swiped his open hands down his face and groaned. "I was seduced," he muttered. He stood and went to the kitchen. He made coffee and took his mug out to the back porch. He sat and drank it outside. The weather was as nice as anyone could ask for, but he barely noticed it. He was filled with guilt and shame for how he lost his self-control. After almost an hour of recriminations, a thought came to him that he had not considered before. Is the demon even real? He mumbled quietly. He had been told time and again that it was. Father Kyle and Mrs. Fitz and her son were convinced. Did it necessarily follow that it was true? He had to come to terms with this. He had experienced bad dreams since the first time he opened that basement door. Twice last week, Michael and Mrs. Fitz had said he drove the demon off with nothing more than a look. But he did not remember that. He only remembered shadows that were driven away by the sun breaking through the clouds. But did that mean that was all it was? The waking dream he experienced at Mass today should be a sign. Should be a huge sign that even the dimmest of holy men would recognize. But he was still doubting. It's that rational mind of yours again, he grumbled. It's getting in the way of figuring out what happened to me. Was it, though? Was his rational mind really getting in the way? Or was it his last defense between living in the real world or descending into madness? He sighed heavily and looked into the sky. He got out of his chair and went to his knees. He folded his hands in front of him and closed his eyes. Father, am I losing my mind? He asked. Am I imagining things? Or has a demon from the abyss really taken up residence in the basement? He squeezed his eyes shut and then opened them. He felt tears forming where he had squeezed them so tight. Then he looked into the skies. He turned his head all the way around, but there was no answer to his prayers in sight. He sighed heavily and prayed again, this time for his sanity. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.